The political panel All-Stars up shortly, Whānau. But first, this week's 1-on-1 in 10 on the state of the economy and the latest on the Iran war with Labour Party spokesperson Barbara Edmonds. Kia ora, comrade. Welcome to the show and thank you for being available to the Fourth Estate. Your democracy is grateful.
Always a privilege, I could say,
Always,
to appear on the show. Just a pity I'm not in the studio with you. I always enjoy the presence and the space that you take up.
Blessings. Always a pleasure to have you on the show, Barbara. We are going to be discussing the state of the economy with you tonight. Before that, though, we have to get Labour's response to America and Israel without congressional approval or UN mandate launching an illegal war on Iran. Have we in the West learnt nothing from the catastrophe of Iraq?
Yeah, if you thought the Prime Minister's post-cab yesterday was the worst interview that you've seen, today Audrey Young in the Herald basically compared Luxon's responses in the House today as a Claire Curran moment. So it's his Claire Curran moment. Yeah. It was pretty scathing, given that Claire, she said, was a junior minister. He's the Prime Minister. Also, it was about her Gmail. This is probably the most significant international crisis that he's faced so far in his term. So it was pretty scathing. And, you know, in contrast, we did have Chippy in response to the motion that Luxon put out, say that, you know, Labour Party, we don't support the attack on Iran, nor do we support the Iranian regime. The most important thing for us is that we support international law. Why is that important? Is because we are a country in the southern hemisphere, a small domestic economy that absolutely depends on international law. And from our view, no country is above that.
Right.
New Zealand has always stood for that, and this time is no different.
New Zealand has a unique voice on the international stage. Why is this government siding with those committing the violence and criticising only those responding to the violence?
Well, what are they? Because I wasn't quite clear from Mr. Luxon's response yesterday or today. He said they supported Australia's stance, which said, oh, so did you support the US? Well, it's up to the US and Israel to provide the legitimacy as to why they did this. You know, I mean, the difficulty is we can condemn the repression of the Iranian people under that regime and still be clear that military escalation is not the answer.
Right.
So what Chris Hipkins today, earlier this morning in media, yesterday when responding to the Prime Minister's comments, we've called for restraint, diplomacy, and the Iranian people's right to shape their own future.
Exactly. These geopolitical shockwaves will have an inflationary spike at a time when many are still being crushed by the cost of living crisis. The Salvation Army State of the Nation had grim statistics at the beginning of this month highlighting this. 47,000 in severe housing distress, 160,000 kids in material hardship, and double the level of unemployment for Māori and Pacifica. Who is this economy currently working for? The wealthy or the people?
Well, according to Nicola Willis, people are impatient. You know, she said that yesterday with Ryan Bridges. I feel like I'm doing an NZME ad here. Sorry, guys.
They need it. They need the help. They need the help.
She's saying they're being impatient. The reason why they're being impatient is because you promised them big time. You went up and down the country saying that you were promising $250 tax cuts.
Yes.
I asked the minister again today, of the 21,000 people that they had forecast to receive the full $250 tax cut, how many families have actually received it? Or in other words, how many impatient families are there?
Yes.
Oh man, she still couldn't give us an answer. You know, this has been since her budget in 2024. So people are impatient because
they told
she's
them.
not giving them what she promised.
Yes.
And that's her fault. And it comes back to she sort of has this really big thing around, I'm going to bring down the price of butter. I'm going to drive down grocery prices. I'm going to attack, make electricity prices, reduced. But then she hasn't actually really done something
She
about
fails at
it.
every one of those
people's
things.
hopes and expectations were pretty high. We're hoping that, they were sold a lie effectively,
Yeah.
and she hasn't delivered on it 2 years later. But, in relation to the state of the economy, do want to acknowledge we have in the room the good doctor, Dr. Matthew Hooton. Don't know where you are. But, there is a lot of data that's out there. Probably one of the things I've just seen sort of in the last hour is Kelly Eckhold, who is the Westpac chief economist. The team in New Zealand and the Westpac team in Australia ran some numbers, basically, depending on how long what's happening in the Strait or basically in the Middle East happens.
Yeah.
They forecast that there will be a reduction in GDP growth for both Australia and New Zealand, and that inflation will definitely stay well beyond that 3% band.
In 2024, government agencies warned the government that their welfare sanctions would push between 7,000 and 13,000 kids into poverty. 2 years in, the stats showed 23,700 kids have been pushed into poverty. Why are we enabling policy that causes child poverty rather than addresses it?
And that's a good question for Nicola Willis. She's the one in government. She's the one that's made these choices. When 1 in 7 children in New Zealand are in material poverty, that's not something to be proud of, and not something that's saying that green shoots in the economy from August 2024 are going to happen. They don't feel this economic recovery. They expect the government to be able to support them when they most need it. But unfortunately, the government has different choices and different places where they'd rather spend the money. For example, potentially an LNG facility that might cost $1.5 billion, and including a gas tax to pay for it. How great is that given what's happened in the last 72 hours?
Well, let's just talk about that. The new gas processing plant National want to build would now be pointless with the shutting down of the straits. When is New Zealand going to get serious about solar and renewables for our electricity supply? Because this government just doesn't.
Well, apparently they did receive some advice in relation to it.
Yeah.
They've also had their Frontier report, which came out last year, which of the options that were put forward to the government, the LNG one was the least favourable for New Zealand.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it all comes down to choices. I can keep saying it and keep repeating it, but this is what the government is prioritising, which is clearly an LNG facility that's going to be basically passed on through a gas tax for electricity users.
Yeah.
Again, it's just, I'm not sure where the decision making is coming from and what sort of values are underpinning it, and what advice or what questions they should be asking as ministers, because that's their job. Ask the right questions, figure out what the right policy is, cut out the short-term thinking and think a little bit longer about what's needed.
Whether it is the supermarket duopoly, the electricity oligarchy, or the ECE monopoly, free market New Zealand capitalism has mutated into a rigged plutocracy of corporate vested interests milking the system for their benefit. I'm not looking for socialism from Labor, just basic regulated capitalism. Will a Labor government do the heavy lifting to regulate markets, or will the rich win again?
All comes down to competition policy, Martyn, and we will have more to say on that a little bit later this year.
Oh, you got me excited. Okay, Labor supports pay parity and has heavily criticised its kneecapping. Are you committed to returning it, and how are you going to pay for it?
So pay equity, which was, for those that need to understand, last year in budget, the government actively cancelled 33 claims that were going through the process, brought in new legislation, basically moved the goalposts, required those claimants to restart again. We have committed to reinstating the pay equity legislation, and how you pay for it is again another choice that Labor will make, and it's something that we will disclose as part of our fiscal plan a little bit later this year.
Good.
Now, we are getting some flack, and I'm going to be very upfront about this. People are saying, well, why are you waiting? Why are you waiting? And it's like, well, because nobody expected this last year in the last budget. we're not going to do what Nicola Willis did, which was go up and down the country again, promising a $250 tax cut when she didn't know whether she could actually afford it.
Yeah.
So I am doing the prudent and considered thing that any finance spokesperson would wait for.
Yeah.
The government still has another budget to go in May this year. Then what we do is we have a look at what the policies we want to provide to the country. We make sure that we've recosted them based on the forecasts that are within budget.
Yes.
We'll probably have to revise the costings as part of the pre-election fiscal update.
Yep.
But I'm not going to overpromise to the country and then not deliver on it because my numbers don't add up. And there was some pretty big holes in the last national party's election promises, around $2 billion, according to some economists. So I'm not going to have that egg on my face later on.
Nicola Willis has an inquiry into the monetary policy around COVID, which is something we all want. We all want to learn from any mistakes that were made. But the people she's appointed are two Atlas Network adjacent acolytes. Why would you participate in what is effectively a kangaroo court that's going to use a very narrow libertarian right-wing view, which says all taxation is theft anyway? Why would that be a serious consideration for this government? If they were real about wanting to learn things, why set this up politically as they have?
So I can't speak to the CVs of those two particular reviewers.
Oh, I have already. I have.
Okay, you can. But we have put in some written parliamentary questions around some due diligence in relation to them.
Right.
And ultimately, it's the minister that picks, right?
Yes.
Whether we are participating in this, we have not been approached, or at least I don't know whether we've been approached. I haven't seen a letter that has requested us to appear before this ministerial group or whoever
it's a stunt, isn't it? It's a stunt.
So I haven't seen an invitation to meet, and also I wasn't the decision maker at the time either. However, ultimately, yes, there are lessons that we should learn. The Reserve Bank themselves had come out with 7 recommendations that they know that they need to improve on because they learnt from COVID.
Yes.
Ultimately, the question I have, though, is monetary policy is meant to be independent. If there is an outcome that comes out of this review, how is the minister going to direct the Reserve Bank unless she changes legislation in relation to it? Because they're meant to be independent, and independent for a good reason.
Finally, Barbara, in a scenario where top crosses the 5% threshold, could the Labour Party work with them to form a government?
So my kids, and those who have teenagers, they know sometimes your kids say, bruh. Bruh is like brother, like bro. Ultimately for me is, that's above my pay grade, you know? And Chippy has said, this is above my pay grade. I'm only number 3, guys. But Chippy has said that ultimately we will make those decisions and closer to the election, and we will tell New Zealand who we're willing to work with. You know, from our perspective, it's up to the voters because it's that close, right? It's really close.
It is.
Which is why the focus for us is running a 2-tick campaign, which is basically, you want a strong, stable government, give it to Labour.
Thank you, comrade. We'll see you again soon on the show.